I haven't talked about defense of traditional hierarchies in terms of gender and class. That's not true.
Well, you've talked about hierarchies in society. You've talked
Yeah,
about
that's true. I have done
would you
that.
not define
But I
that as
haven't
class?
justified them on the basis of gender and class.
You
whatever the
well,
two
okay,
categories.
but you talk
not
about,
okay. That's an important distinction.
Okay, but you defend hierarchies in society in a way that you talk a lot about the Pareto distribution, yes?
That doesn't mean I defend it.
Well, okay.
No, not well,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Hope you are feeling good. Today we'll be checking out a video titled Jordan Peterson humbles overconfident student who tries to cancel him. Epic debate. Wow. I believe this is going to be an interesting one. Let's check it out. Go.
In an exchange that's gone viral for all the right reasons, Jordan Peterson faces off against a student armed with a barrage of loaded questions. The student attempts to pin Peterson down on his views regarding social hierarchies, using terms laden with assumption and accusation. Yet Peterson navigates this minefield with the grace of a seasoned intellectual. Jordan Peterson did not hold back.
As you might imagine, you've been a topic of conversation on this campus a lot in the past week or so, certainly among a lot of us who discuss politics. And one of the things that sort of united people who like and dislike a lot of your ideas is that we appreciate your defense of free speech, and we appreciate you coming here to talk about it with us. But one of the things I thought was really interesting is Professor Van Dyke addressed the distinction between you and Jonathan Haidt. And you mentioned this as sort of a temperamental one. And I think, I'm sure that's true to some extent, but I noticed you've made a lot of more sort of substantively inflammatory claims. Like in the course of this lecture, you called the authors of Facebook posts demons and totalitarians. In past events, you've called them things like neo-Marxists, cultural Marxists. You've called them, I believe, a fifth column that is committing treason against the West. And it seems to me this is more than temperamental. This is a substantive difference. And
it's a substantive difference, yes.
And another thing you've done is that, unlike Haidt, you have a more sort of comprehensive political program. You've talked a lot in defense of traditional hierarchies, both of gender, of class, so on, though emphatically not of race. And so it seems that...
I haven't talked about defense of traditional hierarchies in terms of gender and class. That's not true.
Well, you've talked about hierarchies in society. You've talked
about...
Yeah,
that's true. I have done that. But I haven't justified them on the basis of gender and class. Whatever the two categories.
You talk
not
about,
okay. That's an important distinction.
Okay, but you defend hierarchies in society in a way that... You talk a lot about the Pareto distribution, yes?
That doesn't mean I defend it.
Well, okay.
No, not okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think you talk
Observing that something exists is not the same as defending it. How in the world...
Well, people attack it, right?
What's that?
And you don't. People attack it.
Attack
inherently, attack the hierarchies of society as inherently unjust, right?
Well, they're unjust, but they're also useful.
Okay, so you say they're useful. Some
well,
people would disagree
look at
with
it
that
this way.
proposition.
Okay, look at it this way. You obviously think that it's worthwhile to stand up and ask a question.
Yes.
So you think that standing up and asking a question is better than not standing up and asking a question.
Yes.
Okay, that's a hierarchy.
Yes.
Of values.
Yes.
Okay, without the hierarchy of values, you couldn't act.
Of course.
No, not of course.
Well, wait.
It's partly why I'm defending the hierarchy. Without a hierarchy, there's no impetus to act.
Hierarchy, right?
The student's confrontation with Jordan Peterson centers on allegations that Peterson defends social hierarchies, particularly regarding gender and class, and uses inflammatory rhetoric against critics, implying a broader political agenda. These accusations stem from misconceptions about Peterson's work, notably confusing observation of societal structures with endorsement and misunderstanding Peterson's critique of certain ideologies as personal attacks. The student's argument oversimplifies Peterson's nuanced discussions on human psychology and societal structures, misinterpreting his exploration of hierarchies as support for inequality. Peterson's response clarifies his position, emphasizing the distinction between acknowledging societal phenomena and advocating for them, thus highlighting the inaccuracies in the student's accusations and assumptions.
There is a hierarchy in society, right?
No, there's multiple hierarchies in society.
There are multiple hierarchies in society, right?
Yes.
And you say that they are based in, you invoke the lobster, right? That they are based in nature.
Yes. I said that they were inevitable.
Yes, that they were inevitable. Some people disagree with that.
That doesn't mean that they're good.
But my point is that, this is generally relevant to it, you have a broader point than free speech. This is one of the things you talk about, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Whereas I think there are some other activists who focus on more exclusively
I'm not
on
an
free
activist.
Speech. There are some other individuals who engage in public political speech. Okay.
Yeah?
who focus more exclusively on free speech, whereas you have other goals in mind. But one of the things that your more inflammatory language, and it's fair, it's a substantive disagreement, has done, I think, is it's politicized this free speech to an extent that someone like Haidt hasn't. I've noticed that when someone hears the term free speech now, they associate it with a specific set of thinkers, often as viewed as on the extreme right. And I think arguably that's the problem of all factions in society, because free speech should be a universal value. Polls certainly suggest that it's coming under increasing threat from both sides. But I suppose the heart of my question, in addition to, of course, these other observations, is that do you believe free speech is your primary end, or do you believe these other points you're making are important? Because I've heard you a bunch of times defend free speech sort of contextually, like you've complained about some of the laws in Canada that you dislike, that they institutionalize false facts into the law. But it seems to me that an absolutist defense of free speech makes no preference as to true or false. The point is that something, you are being forced to say something. It would be as bad as if you were forced to say something that is true, because the point of free speech is that you can say whatever you want, right?
No, the point of free speech is so that you can think your way through life without running like headlong into a brick wall. But being told to think
position A versus position B is just as bad, right? Even if one is true and the other is not.
Okay, well, there was a bunch of questions.
Yes.
Good job, by the way.
Well, actually, wait, can I just ask one additional addendum?
You can literally sense the student's arrogance as he attempts to pigeonhole Jordan Peterson. He cannot even make one coherent argument because his intention is not to ask a question, but to display his own intelligence and supposedly expose Jordan Peterson. But Jordan Peterson did not fall for it. Instead, he dismantled the student without even saying much. On the issue of hierarchies, Peterson's clarification strikes at the heart of a common misconception. Observing that hierarchies exist within society isn't an endorsement of their every outcome. It's a call to understand these structures more deeply. Peterson invites us to scrutinize, not just accept or reject. Jordan Peterson's response on the purpose of free speech reminds of a quote by Alfred North, where he said, "The purpose of thinking is to let our ideas die instead of us." The student's approach implicitly suggests that free speech is valuable only insofar as it aligns with certain ideological viewpoints or societal structures, particularly criticizing Peterson for what they perceive as his defense of traditional hierarchies and use of what they consider to be inflammatory language. This perspective misinterprets the foundational principle of free speech, which is not about endorsing specific ideas, but about protecting the marketplace of ideas, ensuring that dialogue remains open and that no single authority has the power to determine which opinions can be expressed. Peterson's response to the student, though not delving into an explicit lecture on free speech, embodies the principle's true essence. By addressing the student's accusations with clarity and refusing to be pigeonholed into a simplistic ideological stance, Peterson demonstrates free speech in action. He underscores the importance of dialogue and the exchange of ideas as mechanisms for understanding complex societal issues, rather than as tools for winning arguments or silencing opposition.
I think the politicization of free speech is by far the biggest threat to free speech, because this has always been...
No, the radical leftists are the biggest threat to free speech.
So this is a disagreement.
But I get your point.
The professor alluded to in previous questions, the substantive threats to free speech in much of the world, in Europe certainly, I think in the United States as well, from the government have come from the radical right. And I think it's fair to say that on the specific narrow subset of certain departments on liberal arts colleges, it's fair to say a threat comes from the left, though its scope is in dispute. But my question is, do you think that the way you talk about free speech, the way you link it to specific issues, the way you use inflammatory language, and the way you seem to defend a specific set of free speech, there are certainly plenty of instances of free speech attacked on the other side that you don't mention as much. Do you think you risk politicizing this? Because it seems to me
yes.
that... Okay, and do you not think that's a far greater threat? Because, for example, the NRA... Well, sorry, the NRA is a group in the United States that defends guns rights, right?
Okay, hold it.
Hold it.
We need a question.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, like I said, you're doing fine, but it's just too much. Like, I can't keep it straight.
Do you think that your behavior risks politicizing it, and do you think that politicization is justified?
I think my behavior risks politicizing it, yes. I would rather it not be politicized, and I'm doing what I can to manage that risk. However, it's become political in my country because the government implemented compelled speech legislation. So I wasn't complaining about that before it became political.
Jordan Peterson's calm yet firm handling of a potentially volatile situation exemplifies the power of reasoned discourse. In a world where the cacophony of conflicting opinions often drowns out meaningful dialogue, Peterson stands as a beacon of intellectual integrity and the pursuit of truth.
Wow, what an interesting question from the students. I would say I don't think it was actually a question because it kept on, talking and talking and talking. I just feel the student is trying to show his intelligence to Jordan Peterson rather than asking a question. Because from the beginning of the video, I was thinking the student is just going to, say something and ask some simple question. Why Jordan Peterson? We try to educate the student based on what the student is going to ask. But as the video continues, I realized the student was trying to show his intelligence rather than, asking a question. I totally feel the student was trying to frame Jordan Peterson up, was trying to cancel the Jordan Peterson. But we all know Jordan Peterson is someone that is very articulated, someone that is very intelligent, very honest, always ready to say the truth and stand by the truth. I was very glad that Jordan was able to, cancel him while he was going astray. If you want to ask a question, it's better you just ask a direct question instead of you coming up with a speech just in order to, find fault in Jordan Peterson, which I believe that is very wrong. If someone gives you a lecture, gives you a speech, and you are not convinced with the speech, you want to ask a question, you should ask the person a direct question instead of trying to show your own intelligence, which I believe that is what the student is trying to do. And by every standard, I believe the student is not very informed. It's not very informed. Before you try to challenge Jordan Peterson or before you try to frame Jordan Peterson up, you have to get your facts ready. You have to get your points ready. It's just like everybody was saying, he was actually expecting Jordan Peterson to validate what he was saying, and Jordan Peterson totally proved him wrong. And he tried to twist Jordan Peterson's words, and I was very glad Jordan Peterson made him to understand his points. So I've really learned a lot just watching the students ask the question and also watching Jordan Peterson. I'd also like to hear your comments. Let's get a conversation rolling. Kindly click on the subscribe button, click on the like button. Do have a nice day.
Yeah.